to Horton of the Collector with me, Jace, and yes, today I'm going to be doing a topic that I've managed to keep off this channel for quite some time now due to all the, let's be honest, all the general uproar and hassle and stress and everything else that's been going on around it, which is the Rings of Power, which is why on my last video I asked the question, do you all want to hear what I think of it? And it came back as a resounding yes. 80-odd% of you, 80-something% of you said yes. I apologise to those of you who said no. Maybe just don't watch this video. It's all about the choice of whether you want to watch something or not, which is going to be a theme that runs through this video, and something I think maybe people lost a little bit of sight of, but we'll get into that shortly. So I've thought about how I wanted to approach this, because the one thing you can be rest assured of is that whatever my opinion is of this show, it will be my honest opinion, my frank, blunt and honest opinion. I am not swayed by popular opinion. I'm certainly not jumping on any bandwagons just to join in with a popularity or what maybe is deemed to be the in crowd or the, you know what I mean. This is my opinion. And if by the end of this video it upsets maybe a few hardened, or who they believe to be hardened, Tolkien fans, then so be it. You know, it's was it Plato who said, the most hated man is he who speaks the truth? Well, this is what you're going to get now. It's the truth, my truthful opinion on the first 2 episodes of Amazon Prime's Rings of Power. Now, on the build-up to this, I was watching quite a few YouTube channels that were discussing this, and I have to say, before I get into this, 2 or 3 of these channels, the hosts of these channels, have what I consider to be an encyclopedic knowledge of the works of Tolkien. I was very impressed with their knowledge, and I was very also with their presentation of their YouTube channels. And so I just want to get that in now, because I might be referring back to some of the YouTube channels that I've been watching later on. I might not. See how this goes. But I just want to make that perfectly clear before I start. Going on from what a lot of those YouTube channels said, when I sat down and started watching it, it became very apparent. Well, it became very apparent. I already knew before I'd even pressed play that Amazon Prime basically have spent 250 million quid to buy the Lord of the Rings license. They're using the appendices at the end to cover the Second Age. But let's be honest, they've slapped Lord of the Rings on this, and they're kind of doing their own thing. Very apparent within minutes of watching episode 1. Again, others have discussed all this. I'm not going down all the political things and everything else, but obviously they have managed to crowbar in their own political agenda here. We all know that. We've all seen what's been going on. But somebody else was saying on the channel I was watching, of course, there's certain things that they can and can't do because they haven't got the rights to the Silmarillion. So I try to keep that in mind, and I try to keep an open mind as well when watching this. Within the first few minutes of watching this, it was blatantly apparent that this wasn't following the storyline set out by Tolkien at all, really. I found the writing to be poor, the dialogue was poor, some of the scenes were confusing. I have no idea really why they're even in there. It didn't have the look or feel of anything Peter Jackson did with his 2 trilogies. But all these things kind of helped, because after about sort of 20 minutes or so, I just sat there and thought, okay, well, I'm just going to sit here. I'm quite firmly detached now from what I know of Tolkien's work, and I'm also quite detached from what Peter Jackson himself has done. So I'll take this at face value, what it is, putting everything aside. And I've got to say, even with the flaws of this, in the first 2 episodes, I didn't watch anything that was any more, shall we say, ridiculous than in The Hobbit, Legolas running up them falling stones. You know, there was nothing I saw that was sort of like made me roll my eyes more than that scene did. So again, with the addition of putting new characters in, and I've always been quite vocal when I've spoke about this prior to seeing it, that they didn't need to put new characters in this, because there's so many characters already involved in the storyline. But then again, because of potential restrictions that are in place. I don't know the licensing or how licensing works. I haven't sat down and taken the time to understand what goes on in the second age enough in the Silmarillion, the Unfinished Tales, and anything else that's relevant to be able to apply that to what is available in the appendices to see how much of a story can be laid out. Obviously, the writers of this have, and they've had to do it. So I'm not going to give them too much of a hard time for that. And if they've brought new characters in, whether it be for a political agenda or whether it to be to help the story go where they want it to go, so be it. I can't be too harsh on that because Peter Jackson introduced characters into both The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit for cinematic use. Lurtz in Fellowship of the Ring, for example, was solely in there for the film. So, you know, I try to just sit and watch this with an open mind. Again, I was able to remove myself from all of the hassle and the stuff that's been going on. Certain scenes, like I say, I found them confusing. In places, the dialogue was atrocious, but some of the scenes were spectacular. I thought they were brilliant. Khazad-dûm, for example. And certain things I like to think they hinted at. I mean, when Galadriel had her brother on the slab, well, I believe was Finrod. Other channels, I'll be honest, I've watched other channels and they have said they believe this to be Finrod. On the subject of this, I do just want to crowbar this in myself. That falls into the Beren and Luthien storyline, and if you haven't read that, I highly recommend you go and read that because it's a fantastic story, which obviously goes to show Galadriel's brother, but also the story of Beren and Luthien and the Hound, Gawar, was it Gawar the Hound? It's such an amazing story, and I don't know if any of you know or not, but the names Beren and Luthien are actually engraved on the tomb of J.R.R. Tolkien himself and his wife. I don't know if you remember, but in Fellowship of the Ring, where Aragorn, at the start, where he leads him into the wild, and Frodo wakes up, and Aragorn's singing that song, and he says, "Who are you singing about?" And he turns and he says, "This is the story of Beren and Luthien." Also, if you go and read the story of Beren and Luthien, you'll find out about the Ring of Barahir that Aragorn wears, and the history of that ring, because that's in that storyline. Anyway, I'm detracting. But I highly recommend you read that. So I'm detracting from the point here, which is the Rings of Power. I keep saying the One Ring, the Rings of Power. On the subject of the One Ring, I thought the bit with Sauron in was spectacular. I loved that scene, and I was there like, yes, here he is at last. So there were little bits that actually got me really excited, and I was really pleased to see. And it makes me excited for potential things that could be happening in the future of this TV series. To encapsulate the 100-odd minutes that I've seen so far, there were scenes that I felt were poor and badly written. I accept the fact that it's not going to be what Tolkien wrote. I can understand why that upsets a lot of people. I can. Having watched the 2 episodes now, it's not upsetting me. I'm past that. It's not in everything that's going on in the world today. This again, it's like I've discussed with statues and collecting. It isn't something that is enough to upset me. It isn't important enough because it's something I can switch off. It's something that I can choose whether or not I'm going to watch it. And that's the thing that we've discussed before in the past. Very poignant thing to remember with this, and this is how I approach everything, and I can understand the upset that some people have. I do feel it's gone out of control. I do feel that it's gone very much over the top. Because at the end of the day, after having sat and watched this for 100 minutes, despite the writing flaws, despite the awful dialogue in places, confusing scenes, I don't like what's been done with the lead character, certainly. I'm not enjoying that at the moment, I must admit, but she's so far removed from what Cate Blanchett was. Again, I can detach from that and apply the fact that it's not that important. The whole thing isn't that important. And even the new characters that they put in, I found myself sort of just watching it and appreciating even the Harfoots when they sort of opened up all their little huts and houses and all that. And I couldn't help but think that, and think, oh, they've gone to a bit of work here to do this. They've applied attention to detail here. So there were moments in it, like I mentioned before, Khazad-dûm, that were good, and they were good enough to keep me wanting to watch. Again, the piece with Sauron got me very excited seeing him stood there, especially with that spear. Is that a future statue or what? And at the end of it, at the end of the 100 minutes or so, or whatever it was, I'm going to be totally honest with you all, I sat back on this sofa here, and I actually said out loud to myself, with a feeling of guilt, actually, and my exact words were, I kind of enjoyed that. And that's where I am with this. Despite the fact that it's not following the law at all, from what I can see, the fact that they've inserted new characters, some for political agenda, I admit that, I agree. Despite the weak writing, despite the poor dialogue and other issues that I have with it, at the end of the day, just to sit there and watch a fantasy TV show, opening 2 episodes, overall, I thought it was okay. I thought it was watchable. It was good. Not brilliant. It's never, ever going to be Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. But that's not necessarily a bad thing for me, because I can completely detach this and just take it for what it's worth. I hope because of the backlash, I hope because of what people have said and people's opinions, that potentially in the future, the writers, Amazon, whoever, alters this to improve it at least for the fan base, and try and at least come and meet them partially some of the way for what they want to see. We can only hope that for the future. But that's my honest thoughts on this, is that for me personally, putting all that stuff to one side, all those agendas to one side, I sat there and watched the 100 minutes and I thought it was okay. I thought it was okay. It was watchable. At the start of this video, I talked about how I'd watched other YouTube channels, and I say a lot of these channels, I've watched them, and they got superb content and excellent points of view that they're making, and I'm not knocking them at all in one bit. But I must admit it was fairly recently. I watched one. I generally can't remember what channel it was, and even if I could, I wouldn't say it on my channel anyway. But interestingly, at one point, they were putting up comments of obviously viewers of their channel, presumably viewers of their channel, who had said things along the lines of, I'm not going to watch a single minute of this, I'm cancelling my Amazon Prime membership, I refuse to watch this, blah, 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 that kind of thing. And initially I thought, yeah, really, are you? Or are you just saying that to get your comments online? Are you saying that? But the host of the channel, and I generally can't remember who it was basically saying, fair play to these people, yeah, this is the way. I thought, well, that's a little bit contradictory, really, isn't it? Because I bet you're going to watch all the episodes, aren't you? I bet you're not cancelling your Amazon Prime membership because you need the content. And that's the thing I'd like to sort of maybe point out here, that, and this is why I don't jump on bandwagons. If my opinion of this TV show is an unpopular one, so be it, but it's my honest opinion. And that's the thing for me, is when I see things like this, it does niggle me a little bit, because I do feel like sort of saying to people, the problem with being the herd, the problem with joining the herd is that shepherd will lead you to the gate and he'll open the gate, but he ain't going to follow you through it. So just, sometimes think on. Anyway, whenever I do these, I just sit here and I waffle, and then I edit it into some sort of discernible order. The long and short of this is, because I don't really know if I've even addressed this, is, for me, the Rings of Power, it's okay. For me, overall, it's okay. There's things I don't like about it, but again, there's things I do like about it. And I'm a kind of person, as a lot of you who've been watching my channel for a while now know, I don't get involved in all the hassles and stresses, and I do feel now some of these other channels and things I've seen in the groups as well that's going on, people are getting just a tad carried away. It's getting a little bit over the top now. It's just a TV program. It's just a TV program. And to quote, and again, I want to bring in a tagline off another YouTube channel, which is Jedi Patrol, which I think is highly poignant. I've used it before in regards to collecting, because his tagline is so simple and perfect: collect what you like. Perfect. Well, a little tweak, you can apply that to this. Watch what you like. It's that simple. It's that simple. wherever you fall, whether you hate and despise and loathe it, don't watch it, all the way up to the people who love it and think it's brilliant. It's a simple choice. And that's the key thing for me. If it gets worse and I'm thinking, oh, this is awful, I just won't watch it anymore. I don't need someone else to tell me whether or not I need to watch this or I should watch this. I don't rely on the opinions of others. I watch it and make my own opinion up. And this is what I've done with this. So I hope I asked the question. If you wanted my opinion, I've given my opinion. Well, it's you either accept it or you don't, but it's my honest opinion. And if it annoys some people, and it annoys some people, I can't do anything about that. You're annoyed, I'm not. Let me know in the comments what you all think of it so far. I'd love to hear from you all. And yeah, I won't be approaching the subject of the Rings of Power again on this channel, I don't think, unless it starts coming in that there's statues or something significant happens. But I think we discussed this far long enough now. As I say, the internet is swamped with all this now, so there's plenty of talk on this, and there will be for quite some time to come, I'm sure. But for me, it's case closed. Anyway, you all know the routine by now. Obviously, anything you want to discuss or chat about, talk about, whatever, shove it in the comment section below. Obviously, if you've enjoyed the video, please give it a like. And if you're new here, you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel, because that would be really, really superb. Normal service will resume on the next video, everyone, which will probably be later in the week. So I will catch you all then. So have a fantastic week ahead, all of you, and I shall speak to you all on the next video. And as always, I appreciate you taking the time to watch. Take care. Ta-ra.